Welcome to our Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge Tech Talk on COMSUBFOR Technologies of Interest. In just a second here, I'm going to turn it over to Gerald Walker to introduce the Tech Bridge team. And then we're going to immediately go into our agenda with kicking it off with Mr. Tony Bausas of COMSUBFOR is going to talk about technologies of interest. And then we've got three really amazing companies who are going to showcase their technology as it relates to COMSUBFOR. So without further ado, and actually real quick, just some logistics. If you have questions, please put them in chat. And if they're to a specific speaker, just tag that in the chat, and we'll hopefully have time for those at the end. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Gerald Walker to introduce the Tech Bridge team.
Thanks, Tina. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for participating in this Tech Talk. My name is Gerald Walker. I'm the director of the Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge. I have with me Commander Hathaway from the NATO Combined Joint Operations Sea Center of Excellence, and Roy Weiser from NSWC Valgren Dam Neck Activity. Dr. Julie Stark from NSWC Carderock is also a member of the Tech Bridge, but she could not be with us today. This tech talk that we're doing today is a new format for us. We're really trying to identify specific solutions that will help address some of the challenges and interests from our partners and sponsors. So we really appreciate your participation today, and we welcome feedback on this format. We really are looking to fine tune and make sure this is impactful and consequential engagement, and any suggestions or feedback back to us would be greatly appreciated. We're very excited to have Mr. Tony Bausas participating with us, and the three companies that are going to present today. I'm very excited to see what they have in store for us. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Mr. Bausas.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, Tony, we can hear you.
We copy.
Okay, now I'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Tony Bausas. I am the Office of Naval Research Global Science Advisor to COMSUBFOR. Today, I'm going to present Vice Admiral Houston's Commander's Intent 4.0 through the lens of submarine technologies of interest. All right, full disclosure. Okay, SUB4's official list of technologies of interest is classified, and the following presentation is unclassified distro A. So for those of you out there that know a thing or two, the information I'm about to present is a bit vanilla and satisfying. However, if you'd like to hear about our tractor beams, their Caterpillar drive, or planet-destroying death ray, if you have the proper credentials, please contact me on Zipper, and I'll be happy to talk to you about those technologies in a little bit more detail. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, the topics I'm going to cover today are strategic competition, and with emphasis on China. Right, no offense to any Russians out there, but I think from the two slides I'm going to present on this, I think you'll see that based on economy and military strength, China is definitely our facing threat. Okay, also going to go into a little bit of a history of submarine combat, touch on the missions that submarines do, and then get down into the nitty-gritty of the concept of operations and that actual technologies we're interested in. Next slide, please. All right, great power competition, the strategic competition, as the Biden administration calls it. I mean, there's, competition is a nice word, right? There's nothing wrong with competition. Paraphrasing General Patton's famous speech to the Third Army, I mean, Americans love competition, right? We admire the fastest runner, the toughest boxer, and we don't tolerate losers, and we always play how are we doing against China? Okay, this slide illustrates sort of the current score of in this competition and predictions. The chart on the left shows a comparison of the US and China's GDP since 2010. Okay, this chart shows the results of research from the UK's Center of Economics and Business Research, and they're predicting that China will overtake the US in GDP by 2028. Okay, so the way I take it is that, a lot of people can play with numbers, and the way I take it is that China's GDP is quickly approaching America's, and they're at the very least as rich as we are. So how did China catch up? Okay, they didn't catch up producing cheap plastics. In fact, during the past few decades, quoting from Kai-Fu Lee in AI Superpowers book that he wrote, but during the past 2 decades, leading up to 2010, China has been governed by engineers, and they use this official dome to use their knowledge of science and how to build physical things to actually transform China from a poor agricultural society into a country that's bustling with factories and enormous cities. Okay, the graphic on the right is sort of an example of this and how far China has come. Okay, it compares how many volumes of AI research has been published by China versus the rest of the world. Okay, this is a widely used metric used to determine leadership in a branch of science. In regard to AI, China is by far the leader. Okay, so, based on this, I mean, it's really not a problem, right? We like competition, okay? So why is China growing economically and technologically a problem? Okay, well, it's competition is fine. However, the issue is not the fact that they're making money. The issue is what they're spending their money on. Next slide, please. Thank you. This slide illustrates what they've been buying and how they match up with our naval forces in Pacific. Okay, during a recent conference back in December, Admiral Aquilino, the commander of PAC Fleet, observed that what we're watching in the region is the largest military buildup we've seen since World War II. Okay, prior to World War II, Japanese had 650 ships, and U.S. Navy had 200 ships in the Pacific, and we still won. But this wasn't really due to tactics or technology. It was mainly due to America's industrial strength and our capacity to build ships quickly. Okay, in 2020, according to the March 2022, 160 ships, and the United States has 297. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that the U.S. fleet is split between the Pacific and the Atlantic, roughly 50-50. So it's therefore China almost has a 3-to-1 advantage of the Pacific, and today China is now the industrial superpower. They are by far our pacing threat in the world. Okay, and I guess to sort of illustrate this in a football context, any conflict with China would be like playing a game of football, 33 players on the field versus for the United States. Okay, granted, the U.S. has by far the best ships and sailors, and would more likely be like the Kansas City Chiefs or LA Rams against a college team. But numbers count for something. And if you were the Chinese, how would you play the game, and how would you play the game on our side? Next slide, please. Of our overwhelming quality of our ships and sailors, and really push our asymmetric advantages. Okay, America's submarines and the sailors that drive them are the best in the world. They are very difficult and almost impossible to detect, and they pack a huge punch. So it would be like having a wide receiver you can find or a middle linebacker you can see. And so how would that game? Well, in Rule 2, out of the 2,728 Japanese tonnage, this means that submarines not only sunk most of the ships, but also the biggest targets. In any conflict against China, submarine force will be called on to do more of this. The next slide, please. Okay, so this slide here shows a lot of the traditional missions that are done by submarines. Okay, it shows commerce interdiction that we've traditionally done, indications and warning we've provided to the fleet, anti-submarine warfare, anti-surface warfare, but it also shows modern missions, like precision strike, mining, countermine, and subsea bed warfare. Okay, the Chinese, are a worthy adversary. They're not stupid. Okay, they'll do everything to mitigate our stealth advantage by mining and laying down undersea sensor fields. Therefore, as a submarine force, we'll need to do everything we can to ensure that the measures that they put in place are ineffective against our advantage. Next slide, please. Okay, so getting down to the nitty-gritty, this is the concept of operations as illustrated in Vice Admiral Houston's concept of operations. And basically what it says is the first thing is enhanced strategic deterrence. Okay, traditionally, strategic deterrence meant nuclear deterrence, right? But in the broader sense, what the commander is asking for here is for any technology that convinces the enemy that this is not a fight they want. Okay, to be very clear, okay, leadership has every confidence in the world that the subforce today has the capability to achieve all its missions. However, this is not a fight we want. Okay, we must avoid war at all costs. Therefore, we must convince our enemies that war against the United States would not be in their best interest and cost them everything. Okay. Integrate the combat power with the joint force. Okay. This is about enhancing communications and force coordination. Okay, we need to mitigate their numerical advantage, and we can do this by having technologies to help us coordinate with the joint force and allow us to apply the full power of our strike group where the adversary is at its weakest. Conversely, this also means that we must prevent our adversaries from having the ability to communicate and coordinate their forces. And therefore, any technology that achieves this is definitely of interest to the subforce. Okay, the other thing the commander is asking for is we need to be able to enable all domain maneuver. Okay, this refers to our ability to detect our enemy while remaining undetected. Okay, in 21st century warfare, being detected means that your lifespan on the battlefield is not going to be very long. Being detected invariably leads to missiles and torpedoes being inbound. Therefore, in order to maintain our subforce's asymmetric advantage, we must continue to invest not only in our ability to remain stealthy, but also in our ability to detect our enemy through acoustic and non-acoustic means. Okay, and finally, lethality. It's not explicitly spelled out in his intent. However, it's sort of inferred throughout. Okay, any future conflict with China, in any conflict with China, we will be seriously outgunned. Okay, in submarine parlance, this means that we'll be operating in a target-rich environment, and we will need to make every shot count. Okay, this not only means that we have to increase the speed, accuracy, and explosive effect of our weapons, but this means we also need to be able to field innovative weapons that provide the commander with options through multiple levels of conflict. Okay, in many cases, it's good enough to do a simple mission kill. Okay, a mission kill would a lot of times be much more effective than a kinetic kill, and in most cases be a much more effective tool for deterrence. Okay, basically we'd be saying we could have killed you, but we didn't. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this concludes my presentation. Okay, if you have any ideas or technologies that may support enhancing our deterrent threat to our subforce, please contact me or my colleague, Gerald Walker at the Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge. If it's a viable idea, if it's something that we can use, we will be more than happy to get it on its way to being fielded technology to the fleet. Okay, thank you for your attention, and thank you to the Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge for providing me with the opportunity to speak with you guys today. Okay, over to you, Gerald, to introduce the next speaker.
Gerald, I have it. Next up, we have Casey with Blue Ring Imaging.
Hey everybody. Okay, I have 10 minutes and I'm going to give you a very high level overview of what my company does. Tina's going to be managing the slides and we'll be bouncing around as I thought I was going to have control. So apologies, as it may take a few seconds for Tina to find the right slides. So we're based in St. Petersburg, Florida, and we are enhancing the piloting experience, crewed and uncrewed vehicles, primarily unmanned vehicles right now, by almost gamifying the experience for operators using mixed reality teleoperation software to provide real-time 3D visualization. Move to slide 9. We're doing this with drones, ROVs, and we even have 2 different contracts related to nuclear submarines. And so we're working with mine disposal. We're working with the undersea cable division out of Port Hueneme with XWIC, and then a larger project with Lockheed Martin related to this space. The next slide, slide 10. So generally what it looks like is people have been working from 2D screens, and we're providing full situational awareness through new types of sensor technology display out of a mixed reality headset. Mixed reality means that you're using OLED screens, but you can see the world around you. And with that, we are pulling this information from the vehicle and also building some perception camera hardware in order to also provide 360 and 3D situational awareness, which isn't really being used or deployed at this point on vehicles. It's typically just a narrow field of view with maybe a pan and tilt camera from the front, and now they can see everything. They won't get nauseous, and it's ruggedized for the field. You can move to the next slide, slide 11. So we can work outside, and we have a kit for that off of a Zodiac, and then we can also work with within kind of a remote operation center, of which we've proved that with a couple of our customers, such as OceanX and Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, as of in the last couple of years. Slide 5. The general workflow is we're vehicle agnostic, although we focus primarily on subsurface unmanned vehicles at the moment, as that's where our contracts have primarily come and our specialization is. And we connect to and integrate with the control system. We implement one of our cameras as well as an NVIDIA product in order to do more edge processing and create an intelligence loop, which I'll talk a little bit about in a few minutes. We stitch this information together into a wide angle display, which is custom to each vehicle and each group. We put that in less than 100 milliseconds end to end on bandwidth limited environments with fiber. It's it's lower than that. We provide the display, and then there's some intelligent ATR and object detection and classification algorithms, which we can also integrate in order to quote unquote gamify this experience. So sorry, I'm looking at the chat as I'm talking. So the slide 6, if you can go to. So the current vehicles which we currently have contracts with and are integrating with subsurface wise are the Video Ray Defender, primarily SRS Fusion, Blue ROV2, and Saab Leopard. So move to slide 3. So through academic studies, through a couple years of doing this, we have proven that when using our mixed reality interface, we are simplifying complex tasks, especially with manipulators, decreasing task completion times for both veteran and new pilots, decreasing individual workload and cognitive load, usability, likability are also factors for us as we want to provide the best experience for these operators to do the hardest jobs. So move now to, let's see, slide 17. The bigger opportunity for us, slide 18, sorry, is creating an environment which is high fidelity, physics accurate, and synthetic. Because the world of subsurface data collection is hard, it's dangerous, it's risky, it's expensive. The bigger opportunity, much like the autonomous driving industry, is to create an environment which mimics the real world, so lifelike that when you capture data in that synthetic environment, the actual robot can't tell a difference. So if someone's giving us, telling us to look for a certain type of mine, and they have a few images of that, we can recreate that in this environment, create a synthetic data collection, do training, and then augment that with the live data in order to make the vehicle more spatial, more intelligent, and perform the task more autonomously. So the autonomous driving industry, if you're going to go and change lanes with a car, you're not going to do that for the first time in a real world. You're going to do that a billion times in a synthetic environment. And once you've proven that, you take those learnings and outcomes and test and validate them in the live world. And so we're creating this loop to do something similar. Go back to slide 17. So what this allows us to do is essentially procedurally generate worlds and assets, both for operator training and for robotic training. And we're doing this in deep sea environments right now. And we have a partnership and contract with OpNav N2, N6, who is leading the charge in this area and has become a close collaborator to stand up one of really the first physics accurate, high fidelity synthetic subsea environments. And Draper is also a part of that contract to help with the physics. Go to slide 16 as I wrap up. So what we provide is this mixed reality app, which can be used immediately with the current sensors on the vehicle. We provide hardware enhancements, specifically in the form of an optical camera system, which we build in-house. We're working with sonar operators in particular to do real-time 3D visualization, both with forward-looking sonars and higher, more expensive mapping sonars. We're collecting this data within certain contracts. It just depends on what the scope of the contract is, but we really do like the data contracts. And we're collecting this data and then standing up in the simulator synthetic environments, which are indistinguishable than the real one to do training. And that's the long-term vision for us, is get the camera out, get the mixed reality app out to as many vehicles as possible, standardize data collection, and start to do simulation and training at scale for vehicles which there may only be 5, 10, 1,000. Whereas the autonomous driving industry has the luxury of having hundreds of thousands of vehicles. We're trying to do this in kind of a niche boutique market. So you can go to the last slide. So with that, it would be great to talk with you. Oh, next, yeah, just one before that. Here's my email. You can find me on social as well. I'm active on LinkedIn, and once again, I'm based in St. Petersburg, Florida. Thank you for the time, and look forward to the next presenters.
Thank you, Casey. We appreciate it. And Sean, if you want to try and come off mute and make sure we have good comms.
I think I'm good. Can you hear me?
Great, I can hear you. So up next, we have Sean Sullivan with Remote Health Solutions.
Awesome. Really appreciate everybody's time today. Very excited to meet with you all. What we have here is the virtual exam room. This is all things telemedicine. So you have telemedicine, basically dock in a box, and a proprietary communications data compression capability for video teleconferencing, where you can send video at 165 kilobits per second or less for bandwidth constrained environments. Go ahead, next slide. So like I said, dock in a box, you have a proprietary medical tablet. It's FDA 510K class 2 device. That means you can be a non-medical professional to use it. I've used it many times on Christmas Eve with my kids. Seems like every time on Christmas Eve, my kids get an ear infection. I'm not a doctor. I was able to link up with a doctor on the other end using one of those boxes that you see there, and using combination of cameras, temperature monitors. We got 3 and 12 lead EKGs, end-tidal CO2, digital stethoscope, lots of different stuff. Basically, any tool that a doctor would use in a standard, physical exam are built into that box, and we're able to send all that data live to a doctor anywhere in the world. Again, using that compression, purpose-built for use on cellular technology with very low signals for disaster response. So it's purpose-built to connect in areas and in situations where other systems are unable to connect. Go ahead. Oh, that video there, just to explain, that was 18 Delta medics just using it in a training operation. So here we have is a system that can be used again, like I said, remotely. We have different form factors. It can come in a man-portable phone app version. It can come in a more robust, bigger kit for use on a boat or on a helicopter or an evacuating vehicle of some kind. We have carts that go in hospital. We have tablets that go in people's homes. And all these devices are interconnected and they all work on the same system. So all the data, regardless of where you fall along the continuum of care, is collected and sent to the same place. Next slide. This slide describes our Voodoo Pro powered by BatDock. I'm not sure how many people online are specialists in the medical field, but BatDock is an AFRL technology. They basically digitize the TCCC Combat Casualty Care Card. We have a license to resell that. We have a contract that we just finished up with the Air Force to integrate this compression, this Voodoo compression algorithm that I've been describing. So now using a tactical Samsung Edition phone, you can connect to a medic who can guide or consult with or receive information about the combat casualty, as well as monitor multiple patients. So our version, our devices are able to monitor up to 30 patients live. So the way I like to think of it is, if you think of the movie Aliens with Sigourney Weaver, you have the Marines who raid the compound, and they have a tactical operations center inside of a tank, and they have like everybody's picture, and they have their heart rate on there, and people start flatlining and start getting picked off. It's basically a dashboard like that. So you can expand the capabilities for a medic, and also do all sorts of telemedicine monitoring and documentation. So next slide. So the basics of our technologies: you have the virtual exam room. That's our legacy technology on which all of our other iterations are built. Voodoo compression is built into that system. So all things are the virtual exam room, tactical virtual exam room, prolonged field care kit. Like I said, different form factors. Those all connect back to Care Central Cloud Services. That's a browser-based electronic health record interfacing record management system. So that can monitor or interface with MHS Genesis, Epic, any ultimate database that you want the information to be sent to. We can work with that. And then lastly, our newest addition to the line of products is our BatDock app. Next slide. So this slide describes a little bit more about Voodoo compression. On the right is information that we received from the Army's Medical Communications and Combat Casualty Care Office, MC4. They validated the bandwidth usage over a test instance of their tactical network. So anywhere you see in green is the bandwidth threshold that it was connecting with, and then whether or not they could see the image and the latency rate. So essentially what it's showing is that 160 kilobit per second ceiling for video compression. As long as we got that much data, we were able to do audio and video. We also can manually cut out audio and video and just send data if needed. This point is, if you're talking about a network, a satellite network, or a MATB radio, and you need to connect, this is how you do it. And we're not saying up to the left, you have different comparable technologies. We're not saying we're better than Zoom. Our technology is not meant for video technology or video teleconferencing like Google Meets or Zoom. It is built when you're really needing to compress and use as little amount of data as possible. Next slide. Different applications of the technology in its current use cases. We use it all over the world. I personally have used it in multiple countries, connecting back with the doctor using, for example, 1 bar of Haitian cell phone service. So the different applications are pretty limitless. Next slide. Some of our partners that we've worked with in the past, we're part of the Samsung Tactical Edition ecosystem. They've been very supportive, and we continue to work with them well. Go ahead, next slide. Our past performance, multiple civil contracts, different contract vehicles that can leverage if anyone had any interest in this technology. Go ahead, next slide. So quick point is, if you see to the right, Maury Edgebot, he is the founder of Dictum Health, that are the original equipment manufacturer of our technology. He is worth a Google. He invented the 2400 baud modem. So his claim to fame is all things connection to the internet. He took his telecommunications expertise and applied it to telemedicine. So it's not me, a non-computer engineer, or the people that built this really know how to connect when bandwidth is just not there. Go ahead, next slide. Like I described earlier, we have different versions of the same technology for different places in the continuum of care. So whether you want to put it on a boat, a team house, a fob, an embassy, helicopter, man portable, phone app, is all interconnected. All the devices talk to each other. It syncs to the cloud. It's cyber secure, encrypted at rest and in transit, and everything gets sent to the same place and can then be sent wherever the ultimate destination is. Next slide. So this is just a quick demo, since we can't really do a live one, is me using it in a box, doing a blood pressure test. All the pictures are, or excuse me, all the instructions are picture-based. So it's really easy to use. Next slide. And this is just a brief demo of our portal. So if you imagine you have the devices in the field, which you just saw, and this is what the doctor on the back end would be looking at. So we have, you don't need any special software. It's just it's basically a website, right? You have patient lists, you have their records, you have their longitudinal health records, so their trends over time, their history of blood pressure, their different EKG readings, their DICOM images for, if you have a CAT scan. We have waiting room scheduling ability to set up, or a doctor, if he wants to, either do something immediately or set up something earlier. This is Dr. John Baugh. This instance, he was in Utah, and Adam there is our CEO on the left. Adam has the box, Dr. John has the kit in Utah, and he's sending a pulse ox. So really neat to see here. A differentiating factor to our technology is when you're talking about sending data in real time, the doctor is able to see it come through. So it's not guesswork. It's live data, live images, live pictures, live EKGs, live readings all the way through. How am I on time?
You've got about a minute, Sean.
Okay, is there another video? I think that video is supposed to be longer. Go ahead, go to the next slide. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you can see the EKG come through there briefly there. The contact information, would be very honored and enjoy working with y'all. Just take your phone, take a QR code scan, and you'll have all my contact information. Pleasure talking with you all, and thanks.
Thank you, Sean. All right, and next up, we have Andrew Burcham with Teradep.
Thanks, Tina. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Fantastic. Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to come here and speak today. Really appreciate the support of COMSUBFOR and Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge in presenting this opportunity. My name is Andy Burcham. I'm the Vice President of Business Development for Defense at Teradep. Teradep is a startup company based in Austin, Texas, focused on all things seabed data collection, seabed intelligence. We service customers in both the commercial space with regards to offshore energy and renewables, et cetera, as well as defense and customers. Next, please. All right. So back in 2005, we went from a pre-Google Earth world to a post-Google Earth world. When this capability came on the scene, it fundamentally changed the way we looked at our surroundings. We had all of a sudden on our desktop a means of understanding geospatially our surroundings, our environment. We can use this information to plan our daily lives, for mission commanders to plan their operations. And because it was so easy, it became integral to our normal workflows. Some of our founders were SEALs, and they were using Google Earth tactically in the field because it was so much more immersive, so much easier to use than traditional legacy capabilities. It was fantastic. Problem, it did not cover 71% of the planet that is underwater. Our vision at Teradep is to achieve that same step function, that same change in awareness, but not for the terrestrial planet, for the undersea. All right, next please. We have a holistic approach to driving a step change in undersea awareness, and it has a few pillars. Foremost in our efforts is Absolute Ocean, which is our digital platform for aggregating, visualizing, sharing, and building out this digital undersea model. All right. However, we need more data to go into this model, right? Ocean data is expensive to collect via traditional means, so we are investing in autonomous undersea collection capabilities that change the economics of scaled data collection in the deep ocean. Primary focuses there are making these technologies more usable, more autonomous, and with longer endurance. Second pillar, instead of taking these autonomous technologies and selling them on the marketplace, we are designing them for our own use, and we will be using them as a service. So this gives us the means to collect data on spec. It simplifies our product development process, and it enables us to go out and conduct survey and data collection operations as a service, driving a fundamental scale in the amount of data coming into the enterprise, whether that's military or commercial. Okay, next, please. So a bit more on Absolute Ocean. Foremost in kind of priority here in this cloud-based platform is scalability. This is a large problem. This is a global problem, and the data is dense. So our platform has been developed to operate at petabyte scale from the ground up, anywhere from 1 petabytes of data to hundreds of petabytes data, which is what we envision being required to really get at this problem effectively. It's a cloud-based environment where the user can access via browser, so that makes it very accessible within whatever the group or organization is using this. So anyone can log in without specialized software, access this data, manipulate it via the cloud. We've maintained it being very, very easy to use. So no geospatial training is required. This is a very Google Earth-ish type experience. You don't have to be an expert to get in and gain situational awareness, gain environmental context. And part of that is making the environment very rich. So it's three-dimensional, it's very well rendered so that you're not squinting and looking sideways at this data. The situational awareness is supposed to pop out at you. All right, thank you. Next. So this is a video that goes through a quick walkthrough demonstration of the platform. Okay, we're going to start by zooming into our test environment. We are in Austin, Texas. Lake Travis is right next door. This is where we do most of our hardware evaluation, test, and other science and technology activities. So we have a lot of data from this environment. What we're zooming in on here is a hybrid data set of high resolution side scan sonar imagery that's been fused with three-dimensional bathymetry and laid into our global data platform. Next up, move into the Southeast Alaska area. Open up a file here. This is a good exemplar of where the platform is going with regards to rendering technology and visualization. Move into three-dimensional mode here, and we'll drop down into the environment. We have three-dimensional rendering of the undersea, of the terrestrial environment all together, where we can provide some light analytical functions for the overall environment. Here's a profile tool that gives us the relative change in altitude or depth over a linear path. Okay. Now moving to the Western Pacific, clearly an area of focus with the undersea in this environment being a critical warfighting domain. We have moderate resolution data for the region that provides us a general regional context, but in that we can overlay high resolution data of particular areas of focus. In this case, we have dropped in 2-meter resolution, three-dimensional information coming from satellites. This is satellite-derived bathymetry of Scarborough Shoal, obviously an area of strategic focus, and an exemplar to any of the man-made or man-enhanced islands in the South China Sea. So we can drop down, look at these data sets together, the regional view at moderate resolution, very high resolution in the area of most tactical importance. You can do mission planning, do some light analytics, looking at this channel into the atoll. We can see we've got a depth of about 15 meters maximum through here. We can talk about different ways that we might want to get in here. And then look at how that plays into the overall region, dropping down from a couple meters of water down to 4,000 meters, not far offshore. This gives us an easy tool to gather some immediate situational awareness around that undersea environment. Okay, next, please. Next, please.
One second, Andy. I'm go back. I'm gonna stop sharing quick.
It's all right. There's just one more slide. I'll talk to it, and if Tina gets it up, that's great. But as we look at the utility of this platform, of this data management system for the submarine and the expeditionary naval communities, there's a unique value here. Right now, we're out there, as a force on a daily basis, collecting a lot of tactical data. It generally comes in, a little bit of analytics is done on it. Targets are pulled out, maybe a PowerPoint presentation is generated to send up to leadership. And then that data either is deleted outright or it's effectively committed to the dustbin. Ends up on a hard drive on a shelf in a secure environment somewhere. And it isn't accessible the next time the user or the mission commander needs to go into this environment and wants to have a data-driven decision process or data-driven mission planning cycle, right? So as we move Absolute Ocean into a secure government cloud, which is ongoing today, we intend to provide a means for the operator at the edge to upload data very easily, to retain that data at scale securely, and to make it very, very discoverable so that when somebody has to go back into this environment, they have that information at their fingertips. We can also at the same time aggregate that with data that we've collected commercially, data that we've sourced from other global public sources, so that the richest possible data set is available at any given time. This will provide situational awareness in general, and it will also support higher level functions with regard to targeting and object detection in general on the seabed with regard to SSW and mine warfare. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. And if you take a couple of seconds, there's a question in the chat for you that I'm going to come back to in just a second. And so that concludes our presentation today. So on the screen here, you'll see we have an upcoming SBIR proposal prep workshop that we're doing both in person and hybrid. And if you were to take out your phone right now, that QR code and sign up. But we would also appreciate you taking our short survey that's over there on the bottom right corner. And again, if you just take out your phones, take out where you take a picture, scan that, and you can take that quick survey. So Andy, while you're still right here, if you can see that question from Dave Rogers, I'll read it, and then we'd love your answer.
Thank you.
So it says, Andy, does Absolute Ocean provide locally stored on-prem capability for disconnected users? Approximately how much local storage would be required for a representative piece of ocean? Say your example of medium resolution Westpac with selected mission area in high res.
Yeah, this is a really great question, and it comes up frequently, whether we have a user group that's on a submarine underwater with no satellite connection, or whether we've got SEALs that are operating on a forward operating base with limited connectivity or a generally austere environment. How do we push this cloud-based connectivity and capability to the edge? We are working with partners that are experts in the space. Microsoft is one of our collaborators, and utilizing existing capabilities to take a cloud, shrink it down to a small rack or cluster of hardware, and take that forward as a self-contained unit in a secure fashion. How much data storage does that require? It just depends, right? If you only had a mobile device and you wanted to run the same capability, you could probably get megabytes or gigabytes on board, and that'd be a pretty small soda straw of your operating environment. But if in a more conventional sense, perhaps 100 terabyte chunks of storage would give you extensive multi-resolution regional view of the problem.
Thank you, Andy. I think one more question that's for you from Michael. Asking, are you using advanced classical algorithms? Are you connected to NISQ, or do you see value in NISQ yet?
I'm not familiar with NISQ. With regards to algorithms, we are running a fair amount of AI ML in the background for our, target detection, and we're using kind of industry best practices to drive those ensemble deep learning models. Noisy quantum. That's not an area of my expertise. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Andy. All right, I'm going to go back up to Sean. So Sean, I still see you on here. So there's a question from Rob that said, can VAIR be also connected to other modules to coordinate care if you run O2, drug medicine delivery, etc., for actual point of injury casualty treatment, at least by a CLS or EMT basic trained for that use?
Yeah, so I'm happy that I get to speak to that because I was in the process of typing the response to that question. But the answer, short answer is yes, with a catch. We are 100% device agnostic. None of the devices that we integrate with currently are proprietary. They've all come from end user feedback. So bring your own device, and if there's sufficient demand signal received, we will make it work. These days, with the interoperability of the Internet of Medical Technologies, so that is a lot of companies already have APIs and different ways to interface and integrate and get the different applications and all the stuff that's connected to these devices to talk. So I can't say that it already integrates with these existing systems, but this is something we do day in and day out. I like to say, actually, we're not a telemedicine company, we're a systems integration company. So I think this is definitely something that we can do.
And then Sean, while you're right there, Gerald had asked, how much does the device weigh?
So the BatDock phones, it's just a phone, 2 pounds or so. With the bigger kits in the boxes, which you saw in the video, that's about 15 pounds. But the important part is the tablet, and that's not like an iPad or a Samsung tablet. That's a tablet that we built. In fact, the blood pressure pump is built into the back housing. So that alone, I think, weighs maybe about 8 pounds, and that can go wherever you want. And then the other option too is to just use some other type of iPad or a Samsung tablet or something. So if weight is a factor or size is a factor, there are many, many options.
Great, thank you. And I think, Tony, you had answered all the questions above from a couple people, but if there was anything from Michael, and Michael, I agree, very impressive by everyone. So I'll give everyone another minute to put any other questions into the chat box. But again, we would really appreciate you taking this short survey that we have. And then if you're interested in attending our DoD Civil Proposal Prep Workshop, you can scan that QR code. And now everyone will receive this presentation. So especially on that second slide, if you want to connect with MATB, you'll have the various ways through LinkedIn, our Eventbrite link, and then the website in general. All right, well, wanted to thank everyone, and especially our speakers, Tony, Casey, Sean, and Andy, for participating today. And we look forward to seeing you at our next event. Thank you all.